I still remember the first time I saw that old fishing cabin, weathered wood, salt, stained windows, and a creaky dock that groaned every time the tide rolled in. It sat at the far edge of the bay, where seagulls screamed over the waves and the wind smelled like freedom. To most people, it looked abandoned, but to me, it was peace. After years of city noise and corporate chaos, I wanted quiet, a place to breathe. So I bought it. Cash deal, simple, no frills, just me, my tools, and the whispering sea. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. I bet you've never seen an HOA lose it quite like this. The first few days were perfect. I'd wake up early, barefoot on the old porch, coffee in hand, watching sunlight spill over the waves. I fixed the broken window panes, patched the roof, and even built a small fire pit by the sand. Locals would wave from their boats, friendly and curious. But then, one morning, as I was repainting the porch railings, a woman in a stiff blazer and oversized sunglasses marched right up my dock like she owned the place, clipboard, badge, lanyard, the works. "Excuse me," she balked, her tone sharp enough to cut through the wind. "This area is private property. You can't be here." I blinked, unsure if she was joking. "Pretty sure I can," I said, keeping my voice even. "I bought this cabin last month." Her lips curled. "Impossible. This beach belongs to the Seaview Shores HOA. You're trespassing." At first, I thought maybe she was mistaken. I mean, sure, the HOA managed the fancy houses up the hill, but this old cabin was outside their boundary. I knew because I'd checked the land maps twice. I even had the deed framed inside, but the woman, let's call her Karen because of course she was, wouldn't listen. She pulled out her phone, started snapping pictures, muttering about violations and unauthorized occupancy. I tried to explain, but she just kept talking over me. "We can't have drifters here," she said coldly. "You're lowering property values." That hit a nerve. "Drifter, lady, I own this place." I snapped. "Show me your badge again. Who exactly are you?" She straightened up, eyes hidden behind those black lenses. "I'm the head of the Seaview Shores Homeowners Association," she said like it was a police title. "And I'm calling the authorities." That's when I felt something twist inside me, that quiet unease that comes when you realize someone's not bluffing. She actually dialed, right there on my dock. I could hear the dispatcher's voice faintly through her phone as she reported a trespasser on private HOA property. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just arrogance, she was trying to get me removed from land I own. I went inside, grabbed the deed folder, and stepped back out. "Here," I said, holding the papers out, "officially recorded, dated, signed, I'm the owner." But she didn't even glance at it. "Fake paperwork won't save you," she sneered, turning away. "Officers will deal with this shortly." The wind carried the sound of distant sirens across the bay, and my heartbeat picked up. Neighbors had started to gather at the top of the hill, phones out, whispering. I could feel their judgment, the kind you can't see but burns just the same. The tide crept higher, slapping against the dock as I waited for the blue lights to arrive. The police arrived faster than I expected, 2 patrol cars, tires crunching against the gravel road that led down from the gated community. Their lights painted red and blue flashes across the sand and the waves, turning the calm morning into a scene out of a movie. Karen stood with her arms crossed, posture stiff, chin high. She pointed at me like I was some kind of criminal. "That's him, officer. He broke into that old cabin and refuses to leave." I could see the smirk under her words, that smug satisfaction people wear when they think power is on their side. The officer stepped forward, a tall man with mirrored sunglasses and a polite but wary expression. "Sir," he said slowly, "we've received a complaint that you're occupying private HOA land. Can I see some ID and proof of ownership?" My hands were steady as I handed over the deed folder and my license. "Absolutely," I said. "Everything's legit." Karen scoffed behind me. "He probably printed that on his home computer," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "That cabin's been empty for years. He's just squatting." The officer frowned slightly, flipping through the papers. "This looks official," he said after a moment. "Recorded with the county registrar's office last month." Her face twitched, but she recovered fast. "That can't be right. The HOA owns the shoreline." She spun toward the second officer, voice rising. "Check your system." The whole stretch is Seaview Shore's jurisdiction. The younger cop tapped his tablet, scrolling through property data. The silence stretched long and tight until he finally looked up. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "the HOA property line ends 200 yards uphill. This cabin and the surrounding beach fall outside of it. It's privately owned." Karen's lips parted, but no sound came out. I almost felt bad for her, almost. Then she exploded. "That's ridiculous. That cabin has always been part of our view zone," she shouted. "He's going to ruin everything with his junkyard projects." The officer raised his hand, calm but firm. "Ma'am, I suggest you step back." I could see the neighbors watching from the ridge, recording everything. The wind whipped her blazer, but she didn't move. She glared at me with something beyond anger. It was wounded pride. "You think you can just buy up our land and do whatever you want?" she hissed. I met her stare. "No, ma'am," I said evenly. "I'm just enjoying what I paid for." That's when she said the line that made everyone gasp. "We'll make sure you regret this." The words hung there, sharp as salt air. The officers exchanged glances but didn't intervene. She stormed off toward her SUV, gravel kicking under her heels, muttering something about board meetings and legal action. I stood there, shoulders tight, pulse still racing. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't done. I sat by the fire pit, listening to the crackle of driftwood and the low hum of waves. The sky was streaked in silver moonlight, but the peace felt fragile like glass that could shatter any second. My phone buzzed with a new email from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "Notice of HOA violation." My heart sank as I opened it. The message was formal, threatening fines for illegal occupancy and damage to community aesthetics. I exhaled slowly, a bitter laugh escaping my throat. They were doubling down even after the police confirmed my ownership. I saved every document, screenshot every threat, because I had a plan, and if Karen thought she could bully me off my own land, she was about to learn just how big of a mistake that was. Over the next few days, things escalated. Karen and her HOA board members started patrolling the upper road, snapping photos every time I worked outside. One morning, I found a notice to vacate, stapled to my door, an unofficial one, but enough to make me laugh out loud. They even tried blocking my mail delivery by claiming I didn't have a registered address. I wasn't angry anymore, I was amused. I spent that week gathering documents, property lines, registration certificates, the original sale deed. And then I went to the county office. The clerk, a kind old man who'd worked there for decades, chuckled when I told him what was happening. "Son," he said, flipping through the files, "not only do you own that cabin, you own the entire stretch of beach right down to the tide line. HOA can't touch you." His words echoed like thunder in my chest. "The whole beach?" I asked, stunned. He nodded, "Every inch of it." That's when the real idea hit me. The next weekend, I organized a small beach cleanup event open to the public, with local families and fishermen joining in. Kids played in the sand, volunteers brought snacks, and laughter filled the air. Karen arrived halfway through, red-faced and fuming. "You can't hold public events here," she yelled over the music. "This is private property." I smiled calmly. "You're absolutely right," I said, pulling out a large printed map from a plastic sleeve. "And here's the fun part, it's my private property." Her eyes dotted across the official county seal at the bottom. The crowd began murmuring, recording her again. "In fact," I continued, "I recently registered this entire beach front as a public access easement. That means your HOA can't restrict anyone from walking, swimming, or fishing here ever again." The color drained from her face. You can't do that," she stammered. "Watch me." I said simply. The next week, the HOA received a formal notice from the county office confirming the new designation. Karen's reputation tanked overnight. Homeowners started questioning her leadership, furious that her obsession with control had backfired. News spread fast. Even local reporters showed up to cover the HOA that lost its beach. I watched from my porch as she packed her SUV one final time, avoiding everyone's eyes. When she drove off, there was no satisfaction, only quiet relief. The seagulls cried above the surf, and the wind carried the faint smell of seaweed and rain. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sunset bleed orange across the horizon. Peace, real peace at last. I took one long breath and smiled to myself. Some people build fences to feel powerful. I just built freedom, and no HOA could ever take that away.